Hey everyone, I'm in NBA 2K23 and I want to show you how to add a created player to MyNBA. This was a request by Baskets Gaming. Thanks for the idea, and let's get on with it. So if we have a little look into features, the first thing we're going to do is create a player. So we'll just go here, create a player, and you can pick between the NBA and the WNBA, whichever you want. So we'll go with the NBA, and I'm just going to add a new player. So if you need help with adding a new player, have a little look at my other videos because I go into this in detail. So I don't really want to go all through here, but all we want to have a quick look at is the vitals. So our guy here is Freddie Bowman. Position is currently a shooting guard. Okay, so this is where we're looking at, and you can go in and change all of these, but that's what we really want to do. So I'm just going to leave it as default because that's not the point of this one. So we're going to keep changes and return, and you can see F Bowman is now added to my created players. I also had another one which I use in a different video, which is grab magnet there. Anyway, let's jump back out of there. So what do we need to do to add them to the game so we can play with them in MyNBA? So the next thing we need to do is create a roster. So a roster is basically a file that you can use with all of the players inside it. So we're going to go create a roster, and it'll say, well, what roster do you want to create one from? What league type? So you've got to pick what one. So in MyNBA, you have different sort of game times that you can go from 1983, 91, 2002 or current. So I'm going to affect the NBA modern roster. So you can pick one of the other ones if you want to do that. You can then use the 2K sports roster as your default starting position, or a user created roster if you want, but we want to just use the current one and just add our player to it. So I'm going to go with that one, select. So now I'm in the roster creator here, and you can see it says I'm currently looking at the Philadelphia 76ers. So if I want to look at a different team, I just right button, that would be R1 on the PlayStation. And what I'm going to do is go to Chicago Bulls and just get rid of one of these players here so I can add my created player to it. So I'm going to get rid of Kobe White, who's a shooting guard, and replace him with the created player. So to do that, we go down to Kobe White, press A, that would be X on the PlayStation. If it's a different button, it'll show at the bottom of the screen just before you press it. And we could move him to release to a free agency, trade with another team or whatever. So I'll release to there, or you could delete him entirely if you want, but I'm just going to release him to the free agency here. So there's now a spot in Chicago Bulls that we can fill. So to do that, what I'm going to now do is left button over until we get to created players, and there's our dude Freddie Bowman. So we're going to take Freddie Bowman, press A or whatever it says for select down the bottom of the screen, and say copy to team. So when we copy him to the team, we can pick any of the teams. Chicago Bulls is now having a slot that we can jump in and do, add him to it. So there we go. So he is now in Chicago Bulls in theory. So let's see. Right button, right button, right button, right button, or R1 on the PlayStation. And hopefully, if we look in here, there is our dude, Freddie Bowman. So we are all good. So that's good. So we back out of here and let's say, what do you want to do? Do you want to save and share roster? That's if you want to share it with other players of NBA 2K23. But in my case, I just want to use it myself. So I'm just going to save the roster. I need to give it a file name. And you can have as many rosters as you want. So we'll just call this whatever. Should we call it whatever? Whatever. Takes longer to write though, so maybe I shouldn't have said whatever. So you type that in, and then menu button for me is done. You can add a description to help you remember what on earth you did to this roster if you want, but I'm just going to go done. And that's saved that for me. Okay, so now all we need to do is go into MyNBA and then use that roster. So we're back out of the features, go to MyNBA errors. I don't even know. And MyNBA is what we're going to jump into. Now, what's important here, I'll just delete this file, that was just a test, so we'll get rid of that, is to pick the roster. And you do that, it's very easy to go past this point because there's loads of stuff in MyNBA. So when it comes into this area, sorry, I'm getting confused. We need to make sure we pick the modern era because that's the roster that we changed. And you could have put the player in any of these if you wanted. So we'll jump into here with A to continue. And then we come into the setup screen. Now, MyNBA is a very complicated area. I'm going to come into it in more depth in other tutorials in the future, but we're just learning how to use a custom roster here. So what we have here, I'm going to hide my camera for a second, just so you can see, because behind my camera are some important settings. So each of these areas here, if it shows green, you're toggling everything on, or you can just pick specific things with the option list. So in my case, all I'm interested in is using a custom roster. So you can see that on the right hand side. So for me, option list is Y. That'll probably be triangle on the PlayStation, or I'll show a different button here. But if I go there, I can turn on custom roster here. So I'm moving down with the left stick and turn on custom roster. I can turn on all these other things. There's so many settings you can set and turn on, but like I say, that's not the point of here. We're focusing on using a custom roster or adding a created player to here. So we do that, we press advance, and then it says, what do you want to use? Do you want to use the official roster? But in my case, no, I want to use that created roster that we made, the whatever one. So we go to this one with the left stick, press A, put my camera back on for you now so you can see my ugly mug. And I'm using right button to go over to my files. Now these are two different rosters that I used. So this was used for a different video, but I'm going to use whatever. I can't remember, that dude was Freddie someone or other. So then say which team do you want to use. So we'll go with this one here. And what I can do already here is check he's on the roster. So if I hit X, view roster, so you see that down the bottom, that would be square on the PlayStation. We can check. So you can see a little tutorial there saying this is the roster view. Yeah, stop it. I know. Go away. What we need to make sure is that our dude Freddie is on here. There he is. Freddie Bowman is on the roster. And that's how you do it, my friends. So from here, you could then select Chicago Bulls to be the team that you control. I think you can control multiple teams as well if you want. Yeah, you can. But once you're ready to advance, you hit the little menu button or whatever it shows at the bottom of the screen to advance. And then it will set up. And then you're ready to go into MyNBA and do the entire season. This gets very, very complicated. You can auto-generate rookies or do all sorts of stuff with the draft class. Very, very complicated, but we'll hopefully go through that in future videos. But if we right button or R1 over to team status and then just go through these dudes here, what we should find is that there is Freddie Bowman, and all is good. And then, of course, from here you could mess around with team sheets, player minutes, and all that sort of stuff to make him a starter if you wanted. I hope that was useful to you, my friends. If it was, big fat thumbs up, please. Much appreciated. Any comments welcome. If there's anything about my NBA or NBA 2K23 that you want to know, hit me up with a comment. I'll do my best to figure it out and help. And if it's a really cool idea, I'll give you a little thanks for doing it. Cheers.